If you're raising a Shih Tzu and at least once in your life you've jolted awake in the middle of the night because of a soft, eerie howl, or frowned and thought, "Why is this dog so weird?" then this video isn't here to scare you. It's here to say a truth that very few dog owners are willing to face. Shih Tzus don't do these strange things for fun. They are not acting, not being dramatic, not plotting anything. Every behavior they show is a very real, very primitive response, shaped by their body, their nervous system, and the way they sense the world around you. And what's interesting and a little unsettling is that many of those behaviors are directly connected to your own rhythm of living. For example, have you ever laughed it off when your Shih Tzu lets out a badly timed fart? It sounds funny, but to someone who's raised dogs for years, that's a clear sign that their body is under tension. Shih Tzus eat fast when the environment feels rushed. They swallow extra air when you're in a hurry, when feeding times are inconsistent, when every day feels different. That unpleasant smell isn't because your dog is dirty, but because their digestive system is being forced to work too quickly in a life that's moving too fast. Then there's the Shih Tzu's obsession with chewing. Toys, bones, anything they can gnaw on. Don't assume it's just about food. For a Shih Tzu, chewing is stress relief. When they chew, their brain releases calming chemicals, much like when you squeeze a stress ball after a long day. A Shih Tzu that's allowed to chew properly is usually calmer and less irritable. Completely forbidding it often just makes them more restless. And what about licking? Many owners think, that's love. That's true, but it's not the whole picture. Shih Tzus lick when they need connection, when they're seeking reassurance, when your scent makes them feel familiar and safe. On days when you're tense, coming home late, speaking less, sitting in silence, Shih Tzus tend to lick more. Not because they're clingy, but because they're asking, "Is everything okay?" The whiskers on a Shih Tzu's face are another thing people misunderstand. Some trim them for looks, but those aren't extra hairs. They're sensors. Through them, Shih Tzus feel movement, airflow, tiny changes in their surroundings. Sometimes they react before you do, not because they're too sensitive, but because their bodies are built to read the world more finely than ours. Have you noticed their legs kicking uncontrollably when you scratch their belly? That's not pure enjoyment. It's an automatic nervous reflex. The body reacts before the brain even has time to think. But if that reaction is too strong or too frequent, experienced owners start checking for skin irritation, fleas, or hidden discomfort the dog can't express. Hiccups in Shih Tzu puppies work the same way. They usually happen when they eat too fast, drink too fast, or get overly excited. It's a sign of a young body still learning how to regulate breathing. There's no need to panic, but it shouldn't be ignored either, because your pace of life directly affects their breathing rhythm. Then, there's a behavior many people worry about: constant paw licking. For Shih Tzus, it can be simple grooming, or it can be boredom, stress, or a lack of mental stimulation. A Shih Tzu left alone too long during the day often licks their paws as a form of self-soothing. Quiet, non-destructive, but deeply telling. Before lying down to sleep, Shih Tzus often turn in circles. That's not a meaningless habit. It's a safety check. They need to be sure the spot is secure, calm, and threat-free. If the circling becomes excessive, experienced owners start thinking about joint pain or long-term anxiety. And finally, the nighttime howling, the sound that makes many people uneasy. The truth is, Shih Tzus don't see bad omens. They sense absence. When you travel, when someone in the house is sick, when daily routines shift, a Shih Tzu may howl out of loneliness, insecurity, or confusion. Humans link it to something dark because we remember coincidences. The dog is simply calling. If you live with a Shih Tzu, remember this: they don't exist to follow rules. They exist to reflect the environment they're living in. How you live, how you come home, how you speak, how tense or relaxed you are, all of it leaves a mark on their behavior. If you've seen your Shih Tzu do any of these things, leave a comment below. Not to judge, but to look more clearly at a relationship that many people live with every day, without ever truly understanding it. There is one more thing that longtime Shih Tzu owners all come to realize, but very few videos are willing to say out loud. Most behavior problems don't start with the dog. They start with human inconsistency. Shih Tzus are extremely sensitive to daily rhythm. You stay up late for a few nights. Feeding time shift, your tone of voice changes, your mood swings, their bodies register all of it, even when you don't say a word. When the signals around them become unpredictable, Shih Tzus don't argue, don't resist, don't leave. They adjust through behavior. Many people think that's just how the dog is, but in reality, it's how they're trying to adapt. Some Shih Tzus suddenly become more clingy. Some sleep less, startle easily, or lie close to the door. Others grow quieter, lick their paws more, chew more often. These changes usually appear before the owner realizes their own life has become more tense. Dogs don't need to understand what's happening. They just need to feel that the world is no longer stable. A very common mistake is trying to fix behavior with commands. Scolding when the dog licks too much, getting annoyed when the dog howls, pushing them away when they cling. But with Shih Tzus, behavior isn't something to suppress. It's a signal that needs to be read. The more you force them into silence, the more that signal shifts into another form, quieter, but more persistent. Experienced Shih Tzu owners do the opposite. They look at their own routine before looking at the dog. They check whether feeding times are consistent, whether sleep schedules are stable, whether voices in the house are tense, whether there have been sudden changes lately. When the environment settles, many behaviors simply fade away without complicated training. The most important thing to take from this video isn't memorizing every behavior, but changing your perspective. Shih Tzus aren't random creatures. They are living mirrors, reflecting the rhythm of the person beside them. When you slow down, become steadier, more predictable, their bodies relax in a very visible way. If you're raising a Shih Tzu and have experienced situations like these, leave a comment and share your story. Many people live with dogs every day believing they're the only ones going through this. You're not alone. And if you want to understand Shih Tzus not just through emotion, but through behavior, biology, and real-life experience, subscribe to the channel. Here, we don't teach quick hacks, we don't sugarcoat, and we don't judge. We simply learn to see dogs more clearly so the relationship between you and them becomes lighter, deeper, and more lasting over time. Before this video comes to an end, there's one small but very real truth that every Shih Tzu owner will encounter sooner or later. It's the moment you realize that the dog in front of you doesn't need you to be perfect and doesn't need you to be right all the time. What they need is a human who is stable enough to lean on, consistent enough that the world around them doesn't feel unpredictable. Shih Tzus can't speak. They can't tell you that today they feel anxious or that the rhythm of the household is wearing them down. All they have is their body, their behavior, their quiet reflexes. When you understand that, you stop getting irritated when they act strange. You begin to look deeper, move slower, soften, and in that moment, the relationship between you and them stops being about ownership and becomes living together. Many dog owners try to fix their dog, but those who stay deeply connected with Shih Tzus over time usually do something different. They adjust themselves first. When your pace becomes calmer, their world settles with it. No promises needed. No complicated techniques. Just a presence solid enough for them to know. Here, they don't have to brace themselves. If you're raising a Shih Tzu and sometimes feel confused, tired, or unsure whether you're doing things right, remember that many people have stood exactly where you are now. You can leave a comment below, not to be judged, but to be heard and supported. And if you want to continue conversations like this, slow, honest, and focused directly on the relationship between humans and dogs, stay with the channel. Because sometimes, what Shih Tzus teach us isn't how to raise dogs better, but how to live more gently together.